Iran lost it after a heavy retaliation from Israel. It closed part of its own airspace, cancelled flights throughout the country, and put the Middle East on war alert once again. This Monday, June 8, 2026, the escalation began after Iranian missiles were launched against Israel in response to Israeli attacks. Connect to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel's response came with bombings against targets inside Iran. While Donald Trump stepped into the crisis to try to prevent Netanyahu from turning the response into an even bigger offensive, what really happened? Why did Iran close its airspace? How did Trump hold back an even bigger war? I'll tell you all about that in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward, no-nonsense content, consider subscribing, because here there's a video like this every day. Israel responded to the Iranian launches with attacks inside Iranian territory. According to the latest information, the bombings hit central and western areas of the country, including structures linked to military production. The Israeli government treated the action as a direct response to the missiles launched by Tehran against Israeli territory. Iran tried to present the offensive as revenge for the Israeli attacks in Lebanon, but the situation turned against the regime itself when Israel showed it would not stand by in the face of a new wave of missiles. De uma nova onda de mísseis. A more serious move came right after. Iran cancelled flights throughout the country until further notice, following an official notification from the Civil Aviation Authority. The order closed Iran's western airspace and left almost all airports paralyzed, with a limited exception for Mashhad to allow pilgrims to return. When a nation closes its own airspace in the middle of a military crisis, the message is clear. The government fears new attacks, wants to protect sensitive routes, and tries to prevent civilian aircraft from being caught in the middle of an escalation that could get out of control. This decision exposed the extent of the fear in Tehran. The Iranian regime launched missiles to show strength, but had to block its own airspace to try to prevent the Israeli response from finding new gaps. While Iranian propaganda talks about resistance, civil aviation to the airports is paralyzed, and the country behaves as if it is waiting for another blow. The population feels the cost of the military adventure first, because ordinary citizens are left without flights, without predictability, and without knowing if the next explosion will be at a base, in a factory, or near an important city. Trump got involved in the crisis to try to prevent an open regional war. The President of the United States asked Israel and Iran to stop shooting immediately and stated that both sides were seeking an immediate ceasefire. Trump tried to prevent Netanyahu from taking the response to an even higher level without giving Iran any advantage. For the White House, allowing the Iranian regime to provoke without a response would be weakness, but allowing an unchecked escalation could also throw the entire region into conflict. More expensive, longer, and harder to control. Netanyahu was at the center of the pressure because Israel wanted to maintain the strength of the response. Israeli officials indicated that the country was prepared to continue operations for as long as necessary, including against rebuilt Iranian air defenses and targets linked to the missile program. After American pressure, Israel also signaled a pause in attacks against Iran, but maintained the right to respond if Tehran or its allies attacked again. In practice, Trump didn't save Iran. He held back the size of the explosion to maintain political control of the DoD. Has Lebanon continued to be the most sensitive point in this whole setup? Israel has increased attacks against areas linked to Hezbollah in the south of the country and around Beirut, treating the pro-Iran militia as a direct part of the threat. Hezbollah had been attacking Israeli troops and resisting any partial ceasefire. While Israel said that the campaign in Lebanon should not automatically be mixed with talks about Iran, that's exactly what happened. Tehran tries to use Lebanon as a political shield. When Israel strikes Hezbollah, Iran responds with missiles and tries to turn the militia into a justification to inflame the entire region. The problem for the Iranian regime is that this strategy also reveals its dependence on armed allies outside its borders. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and other groups aligned with Tehran act as pressure arms against Israel. But when these groups take action, Israel gains justification to strike harder. The United States enters the negotiation with more weight, and Iran ends up being seen as the center of regional disorder. At sea, another warning was triggered. Near Oman, a tanker caught fire about 15 nautical miles from Masira Island, leading to the crew's evacuation and a response from the authorities of Oman and India. The cause is still under investigation, but the timing of the fire raised immediate suspicions, because the region was already under threat, with Iran and its allies using maritime routes as a means of pressure. Even without official confirmation of responsibility, the incident shows how any fire at sea near this area becomes a sign of danger for navigation, energy, and trade. The Houthis also raised tensions. The group backed by Iran said they attacked Israel and would start treating Israeli maritime movements as military targets. This threat does not automatically block all global trade, but it scares companies, insurers, and operators because the Houthis have already missed targets or broadened their target list in other phases of the crisis. Saudi Arabia also had to deal with panic after reports about an alert involving Prince Sultan Airbase. The Saudi government denied that the airbase had been a direct target, and it linked the alert to the launch of a missile coming from Yemen, which reportedly disappeared near the Saudi border. The importance of this detail lies in the domino effect, even when the attack is not confirmed. The mere possibility of a Saudi base coming under threat shows that the crisis is no longer limited to Israel and Iran. It reaches the Gulf, the Red Sea, Lebanon, Yemen, and the routes used by several nations. From here, Israel is likely to keep up the pressure against Hezbollah in Lebanon because it sees the militia as a direct threat on its northern border. Iran will likely try to present the pause as a victory, but the suspension of flights shows that the regime still expects new blows if there is another provocation. Trump should continue using the diplomatic power of the United States to prevent the crisis from getting in the way. A bigger deal with Tehran, without allowing Iran to turn missiles, militias, and maritime threats into bargaining chips. The situation remains unstable because each front fuels the other. An attack in Lebanon could trigger Iranian missile strikes against Israel, and missiles from Yemen could trigger an alert in Saudi Arabia. A ship on fire near Oman could put the maritime market on alert, and a cancelled flight in Iran may indicate fear of a new offensive. The next step will be decided by the extent of American pressure on Netanyahu. Because of Tehran's audacity in continuing to provoke, and because of the ability of the Houthis and Hezbollah to drag the region into a new round of attacks. I'm Milson Alves Global, an international affairs expert, and my purpose is to keep you truthfully informed every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end take a look at the comments. That way you can be even more engaged with the community. Milson Alves Global.